Welcome back to Beyond Markets. Now, ports are a key economic enabler for development in emerging economies, and the African Ports Evolution 2013 Forum underway in Cape Town aims at enabling regional trade and connectivity. For more on the discussions taking place, we are joined by Johnny Smith, the CEO of the Walvis Bay Corridor Group, and Alan Sproul, the Director of Project Finance at Standard Chartered Bank. Gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us. Now, very interestingly, when I was pulling up some of the stats around this conversation, I came across a top 10 ranking of the best ports in Africa. Now, without going into the details of who made the cut and who didn't, Johnny, give us an indication of what constitutes an effective port. And then, Alan, I'd like you to talk a little bit about, has this concept of efficiency with regards to ports changed over time?
Thank you, Nasipo. In terms of an effective port, how we see it is that a few years back, after Namibia became independent, we had to focus on developing Namibia's port, mainly Walvis Bay, which is the main port, as an alternative trade route for Southern Africa. Namibia being a country that have a very small population, we then said, let's see how we can also add value to the Southern African region while we develop our port. And within this, we had to focus on efficiency, infrastructure, but also focusing on the land side beyond the port, going to the neighboring countries. And we have also at the same time established good partnerships with our neighboring countries to ensure that there's efficiency all along the corridor routes.
And Alan, bringing you into the conversation, how has the concept of efficiencies in ports changed over time?
Nozipo, I think the concept of efficiency hasn't necessarily changed. It's just what's expected has developed over time. So what you find is that in the past it was very much a national government driven thing, that ports were run by the state utility. But as best practice has improved, you'll find the private sector is getting more and more involved in ports, and large corporations are now running numerous ports around the world, bringing best practice to those ports and ensuring that efficiency and general service levels are improved.
Johnny, let's go back to a very interesting development in ports that happened about 2 weeks or so. We saw Transnet and the Namibian Ports Authority signing a collaborative agreement. Is this something that is likely to become a trend, and how does it change the business of ports?
Yes, for Namibia, it's always been very important to have partnerships, and especially strategic partnerships. Since we see ourselves as a very small port, we need to take the hand of others that can work with us and vice versa to ensure that maybe one day we can also get into the big league. But this is just not focusing on infrastructure. It also look at the software side in terms of focusing on human resources development, which is very critical for our sector as we are growing significantly, have been and will still grow quite a lot within the next few years.
Alan, Johnny speaks about going beyond infrastructure, and he talks about more of the softer competencies that are required for an effective system around the ports. Are you finding that the appetite for investment is also transcending just the infrastructure around the actual ports, and there's an investment in the broader value chain?
Yes, certainly. I think the private sector sees opportunities in more than just the basic service that can be provided, and as businesses develop, they can identify relationships with the community and opportunities within the immediate environment that can add value both to the business and to that community. So there's certainly scope to grow, and it's room. It depends on the particular environment, what exact opportunities are available. But that's certainly something that your private sector developer or your your port company can explore in more detail.
Alan, staying with you, of course, we know that there have been increased trade volumes emanating from Africa and coming towards Africa. Has the investment kept abreast with these developments? Are we seeing that there is enough money going into the maintaining and the expansion of the infrastructure and the broader value chain as trade volumes are increasing?
No, I think that investment is always going to struggle to keep pace with the demand, and invariably the demand needs to be proved to be there in order for the investment to take place. So it's a bit of a chicken and egg. But large cases, governments need to take that leap of faith and put in place the mechanisms to ensure that private sector investment will take place, that the investment will take place in the ports, and ensure that as the demand grows, so the facilities are there and available for it. There's a lot of work going on at the moment in the continent, a lot of opportunity for investment, and certainly there are a lot of opportunities for private sector to come in, and it's up to governments now to ensure that those opportunities are clearly spelt out, and that they can invite the private sector in to take advantage of them.
Of course, let me go back to you, Johnny. There has been reports of saying that one of the key challenges that are found in African ports is the transit time, to the extent that you find that cargo would sit for almost 75% of its transit journey sitting in the port. And to a large extent, there have been allegations that this is a deliberate delay in transit times by some key players. In your experience with the work that you do with the Walvis Bay Corridor Group, would you say that this is an accurate reflection of what is happening on the ground? And if it is the regulatory framework failing to keep up?
Yeah, I think to some extent you are right with it, but what we have experienced from a Namibian perspective, it's a partnership. Customs needs to work with the port, immigration needs to work with the other partners in the chain, the freight forwarders must work with everybody, and that's how our setup is. So what's very interesting, if you point the finger, the sort of relationship that we form through our PPP is that if you point the finger, four fingers are pointing back to you. And that's sort of the approach that you actually need to formalize to ensure that you don't have congestion or delays in the port. But of course, it also differs from port to port, because sometimes it's the port that could be the responsible one, but sometimes it's even the logistics companies for specific reasons. So yeah, it differs according to the specific port.
Gentlemen, thank you so much for making the time to join us. Of course, that was Johnny Smith, the CEO of the Walvis Bay Corridor Group, and Alan Sproul, Director of Project Finance at Standard Chartered Bank.